talking about there?
So there was a motion at the previous meeting to invite environmental groups because they've been 7% of our funded projects. So we've made some changes in environmental, but we're going to use this as a workshop for them to express their needs in terms of what the ECHO program and then recommendations for improvement as well. So
I think
much like
you're
we're
looking for who?
Yeah, are you talking about nonprofits? Okay. What about, it seems to me maybe a representative from Forever might be there as well as a
Do we ask
connection.
the chair to be there for that?
yes.
Okay. I think that's a good suggestion,
The
Jack.
and anyone really with the county that might be a connection as well. I think that if it's a workshop and kind of roll your sleeves up and try to get the needs out, we should throw the net pretty wide.
Well, why don't we do this? We've got a couple months before it's coming up. We'll just ask members of this committee if they have recommendations on who they would like to see sitting at the table to forward them to staff, and we'll cast that net far and wide. Does that work for everybody? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Are there other questions on the environmental workshop? Okay, I don't see any. We don't need a motion on any of that. Okay, we'll go on to the annual report review.
Yes, so the last meeting, one of the committee members asked us to provide you with our current annual report. It is in the agenda. The criteria that's in the guidebook requires this criteria in there. It's hours of operation, programming and how it relates to ECHO, population served, including number served and applicable fees, operations and budgets, partnerships, and outlook for the next year. So the grantees are required to report on those specific items, which are headings of the annual report. Now, we do look to adjust some of these to kind of update any questions we have. It's been a while since it's been updated, but the committee member wanted to see the report that we have. I just wanted to make sure you have it. And on a side note, the quarterly reports went to online reporting this last quarter. I think it worked out well. They're not due till Monday. But I've seen a few, and that's how we hope to get the annual report done also. So it's going to move away from this paper and go to an online reporting.
That sounds great. Less paper is good for me.
Yes.
Everybody okay with that?
Yeah,
Jack?
let me ask a question. In the case of of what I saw in the notes, that's what you provide to the group and say, to fill out, if you will.
Correct.
The details. And is that new, or is that the one we've always used?
That's the one we've always used.
Okay.
Yes.
I would like to see added to that whether the group has any advertising or public relations effort to promote their specific, project, whether that be within their Outlook area or within the programs area. It seems to me that would be insightful to us to know if they're making an effort to get the word out that, in fact, it's available to the public.
Okay.
Do we need to make that in the form of a motion to add that to it?
Yes, ma'am.
Jack, thank you.
I move that we incorporate as part of the inquiry the group's advertising, or public relations effort to promote their specific project.
Okay, is there a second? I'll second. Seconded. Okay, is there any discussion? And I don't have anybody coming up on here the way it's situated, so I'm going to be looking back and forth. Okay, no discussion, so we'll take a vote. I think we can probably do this by voice vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And Jay, I don't know how, can Jay vote on this?
He cannot vote.
He cannot vote. Okay, well, buddy, I'm sorry. Okay, so that motion carries, and it's a good addition. Any other comments from board members, committee members on the 2021 annual report?
Yeah, I've got one. I would still like to see the annual reports, reflect what was actually proposed in the grants at the top. We have that in the grant, application. That if you got a previous grant, there's a little paragraph as to what was in that grant. I would just like to see that added to this, so we know what, so we know what we're looking at.
I don't think that it requires a motion, that's
Right,
just a
you're speaking of
description.
just a brief summary
Yeah.
of what they're,
Yeah.
okay, yes, sir.
Okay, we're all cool with that? Okay, all right, we'll get that added. That's a great idea. Okay. Anything else on that annual report review?
I was the one who requested that, so I just want to appreciate the extra information about it.
Great. Moving right along, that completes our old business. We'll move to new business and project updates. And staff, do you want to open the discussion on this? Tell us what we're doing here.
Yes,
So for the audience and those who are listening.
yes, yes. So you were provided in your agenda packet the fourth quarter report log, and just to note, that is information through December 31st. The first quarter is not due till Monday, so that will be updated. With that, we do have some updates that we're aware of that's happened since then. We're going to start with the Lemon Bluff project, and Tim Bailey's here to
Oh,
give you
great.
an update on
Oh,
that.
that's a project near and dear to my heart, Tim.
Yeah, same
That
here.
goes back to Patterson's in my service.
So I do have some pictures. The park is done. And, well, first of all, Tim Bailey, Parks, Recreation, and Culture Director, Volusia County. So, yeah, there we go. Okay. If you go to the next slide there, that'll give you
Ooh.
a shot of the
Wow.
completed project. You'll see the fingers on either side of the boat ramp are completed along with the floating dock. That's where you'll be able to launch your canoe kayak if you wanted to launch a canoe kayak there. And then that's a massive improvement from the existing boat launch that's at Lemon Bluff just down the
I
just
can
down the
attest
street.
to that.
Yep,
It's
yep.
great looking.
Yeah, so it's going to be well received. There's another couple of 3 or 4 pictures that I can show to you. If you look at that one right there, that's the 2 pavilions that are near the ocean or the riverfront there for folks to kind of just picnic or drink a cup of coffee in the morning or just relax and look at the water.
And,
You know,
and
while
there
you're.
used to be a building there.
That's right. It was
That
an old
looked
restaurant.
old
Yeah,
restaurant.
and we had to take that out obviously with the concrete footer and all that went away. But I think folks will both folks from out of the area as well as local will enjoy that spot because it's a great vista there. Next slide. And then that's another shot at the floating dock. So the intention here is that when we do have high tide or high water events, high storm events, that river gets high.
It does.
And so this will allow this ramp to be continued, will be able to be used even in those high water conditions. If it gets higher than that concrete pole that you see there, which it has at Lake Monroe, we've actually had the floating docks float off of those poles when they get too high, but we will modify that so it doesn't happen at this site if it ever gets that high. But I really think that this will get a lot of different user groups out here with both the boats and with the canoes and kayaks. Next slide. That's just another shot of the ramp.
And that ramp looks like it's been redone.
Brand new. It's a brand new
Yeah,
ramp.
yeah.
Yeah. There was actually an old seawall there, and at the time when we were originally starting this process, we believed staff thought it was too
That's
steep
right.
to get from the roadway down
That's
to the
a new
water's
ramp,
edge, right?
yeah.
So we were able to work with the designers, Dredging and Marine Consultants, DMC, to create what you see there today. So it's a massive improvement than what we originally envisioned when we started this project, and then now to the finished result. A lot of people are calling me on the park, so there's a lot of interest in having this open. So now, April 29th, if you haven't received the notice yet, you will. April 29th, we're scheduling the ribbon cutting. I believe it's at 10 o'clock in the morning. You'll get an email from Kevin Captain's crew, the community information folks, to invite you to attend. I would imagine that we'll have pretty good showing, you know.
I think you're gonna have a
this.
great showing
Yep.
on this one. This project has had a lot of bent up
Yep,
interest.
that's right. And if you recall, one of the strategies on purchasing this lot was, that launch that's there prior to this one, it was highly used, and so people were parking along the right of way, along the roadways, and in some cases in front of private property owners. And by the opening of this facility now, all that activity is going to be shifted down here. You park in that lot, and then you walk right across the street from your parking area to this boat launch. So you should not see anyone parking in the right of way over there, unless this this parking area gets completely overflown and then you got people parking in the right of way again. We do have no parking out signs or no parking signs there, as well as we're working with the sheriff's office if that occurs. But this should really help the community to keep those cars off of the right of way, and then they'll be right in this parking lot and accessing this ramp. There's a restroom on site as well. It was off in one of the pictures. It's similar to what you see at the Osteen Civic Center. It's 2 stalls, so it'll be another access point for folks to enjoy while they're boating.
Well, that looks great, and I'm sure that Councilmember Lowry is particularly excited about this.
Right, yep. Yeah, the reason why I'm here is that the foundry for the Echo sign we don't have that Echo sign yet.
Okay.
Everything else is in place, ready to
Is there
go.
anything temporary you can put up?
We could put something temporary up,
Temporary,
yeah,
just
we could absolutely do that. We do have the fine sign that says Echo on it, but it doesn't qualify to meet the criteria of the Echo
okay.
sign.
Okay.
But I can 100% put a temporary Echo sign while we're waiting for the foundry to complete that.
There are any?
We can have you stand out there with a sign.
Are there any legitimate comments or questions here?
That was legitimate.
It's terrific, and I personally, because this was something that I worked on when I was on council, I am incredibly pleased to see this come to fruition.
And
That neighborhood will really appreciate it.
And I am too, because this one has been
This has
a
been
long
mess,
road
yeah,
for
yeah.
me, right? So I am definitely happy that this one is finally open, so anyway.
Okay, great.
All right,
That's
thanks a
really
lot.
good. Thank
Yep,
you.
thank you.
Thank you, Tim. What else do we have? Anything before
Yes.
we move?
And I
on?
just wanted to mention on the log, you have the projects highlighted in red. They have been completed. The airport road is not highlighted in red. I know they had the ribbon cutting in February. We are waiting, actually, they did submit their final reimbursement this week, so we're processing that.
Okay.
So that's a summary of the project log. If you have any questions, let me know.
Are there any questions by the group on the log? Okay. We don't need to take action on this one. This is just a report. Okay. So I think we're moving into Dutton House. Is that what? Okay. Who's handling Dutton House?
So I'll just give a brief summary. We have representatives here to answer any questions you
Okay.
have or further
So
explain.
let me, Keith, do you want to hear the report first before you speak, or you want to speak now?
Let me go ahead and speak now.
Okay. All right. Okay. Keith Chester on Dutton House.
Good afternoon, my name is Keith Chester, and I live in DeLand. Between 1997 and 2006, DeLand Historic Incorporated, now known as Dutton House Incorporated, received a total of $1,183,300 of our tax dollars for the Dutton House project, and one should note that was when building materials and services were much less expensive, and the value of the dollar was more. Referring to the 2006 Dutton House Echo Grant, I feel the following questions need to be answered. Is the City of DeLand still involved in providing bookkeeping services? And do those services include annual audits of Dutton House, Inc. and the Dutton House project? Is the City of DeLand still providing grants management services? Is the City of DeLand maintaining the grounds of the Dutton House project? What are the names of the 12 board members of Dutton House, Inc.? When it was decided by the Dutton House Incorporated board to sell the Dutton House to the DeLand Opportunity Fund LLC Group, how many board members were in attendance? What were their names, and who voted in favor of the sale, and who voted against the sale? In the letter that was written to this committee, the writer wrote the cost to restore the Dutton House to usable condition will likely exceed the value of the finished product. I am not so sure this statement was an accurate statement for our current times. The Dutton House is an 11,000 square foot mansion with a 1,500 square foot garage, and over $1 million has already gone towards renovation efforts. The mansion is located on prime downtown property that would be very suitable for a variety of business uses, and the DeLand area is currently experiencing one of the hottest real estate markets in its history. Basic residential properties are selling for around $250,000, and small residential rentals go for $1,500 a month. I think the biggest unanswered questions are: has there been unbiased outside appraisals done of the property that will allow everyone to know what the current and finished value of the property is? If the property is sold, what will happen with the funds derived from that sale? Will the taxpayers recoup any of their losses? In closing, I feel it would be an injustice to move forward today with a decision on the Dutton House request. I feel the integrity of the ECHO program has been called into question over this project, and a rash decision will only add to the skepticisms many have about the program. There are far too many unanswered questions, and at first appearance it certainly appears there will be individuals lining their pockets on the backs of the taxpayers. The idea that no one else will come along and purchase the home outright is unknown at this time. To my knowledge, the Dutton House has not even been offered on the open market with a vigorous and far-reaching sales campaign. Enough harm has been caused. Force the open market sale of the building and recover our losses. Every dime received from the sale should be returned and used to benefit the taxpayers. Please do what is right for the citizens of this county, and do not approve the request that you have been presented with, and please work on ECHO program rule changes that will never allow this to occur again. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Okay,
So the letter they provided us is in your packet. And briefly, they are going to work with a group of investors to finish the restoration of the Dutton House, of the original project. So they're here if you have any questions.
well, I would expect they would make a presentation, that they would present an overview of what they're wanting to do, and
We have Danny Robertson from the Dutton House.
okay.
Hi.
Hi.
So, I mean, as far as presentation, do you want me to just kind of run through?
Sure, and
okay.
especially there were some questions that Keith had asked. If you
Right,
could
right.
just incorporate, I don't know that we can answer all of them, but if you
Yeah,
can.
because I can't really remember all of
But
the
there-
questions
but
that
there
were
were
asked.
just-
The city of DeLand isn't involved
That
with
was
Dutton
what
House.
really one of his concerns.
Yeah,
Where-
so the
where's
city of DeLand is not involved with Dutton House.
Okay, you can speak to us.
Okay, okay.
Thank you.
I'm trying, I mean, if you can, I really, there was way too many questions for me to remember.
Okay, well, let me open it to the members of the committee to see if they have questions. We'll start down here. Go ahead.
Sure. Thanks for coming in. I'm curious, the total amount of award, because I'm new to the board. I think we could use just a refresher of what's been received through ECHO grant. I believe it's just the one grant.
Yes, it was 234,000, I believe.
Are those the only public dollars? in
No, there was
There was
and
the land dollars,
those were the only ECHO dollars.
the only ECHO dollars?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, okay.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. Mr. Patterson, do you have any questions? If not now, we can come back to you.
Huh?
We can come back if you're,
Yeah, because I have a lot of questions, but want to hear more than what I'm.
You want me to just kind of run through what has, as long as I've been involved, or sort of the history of it?
sure,
Okay.
let's hear that.
So, and I don't have, I didn't realize I was going to need, unfortunately, details specific details, but it was in the late 90s that the house was going to get demolished. A private person purchased the house. He got sick, I believe he got some grants, got public money for it. He started working on the house, and then he got sick. He was from South Florida. He tried to give the house to the city of DeLand. City of DeLand did not want the house, so then they helped the community set up Historic DeLand, Inc., who then started applying for grants and previously used funds. We never actually got, that I know of, a big chunk of money. It was, money previously spent, and then I believe the money that the original owner put into it was used for matching, that kind of thing. This is, again, before I came on board. It started to sort of flail, and then in 2005, a whole new committee was set up again. A few years, and at that point, we had a state grant and the 2006 ECHO grant. When I came on board in 2005, we were at the end of spending the state grant, and I think we had just started receiving funds from ECHO. And so we were able to, the scope for ECHO was to get the entire outside done. We got everything except for the porches, because the windows ended up taking a lot more time and money than we expected them to. So at that point, it's about 2008 at this point. the recession hits. So we were we always rated high on the state grants, and we were about to get another state grant, and of course they didn't fund anything. And then that happened 3 years in a row, and at that point our previously spent funds were no longer valid because the time had passed. So that was it. Like, we were out of money. It's the middle of recession, you know. So time just kept happening. At this point, it's just me and one other person on the board. It's really important to me that this house doesn't crumble and fall apart. So I pretty much, anything and everything that anyone approaches me about, I have had many people approach me about buying it. And I explained to them that it's a lot to, like, the whole inside is there is no electrical, there is no water inside. There's places where the floors are missing. And at one point, somebody did look at it. They had a contractor come, and this was actually during the recession. And the contractor said that it was going to be about $600,000 to restore it for a private home. So given if you're trying to use it for public space, you have to have elevators and ramps and lots of other things. At the very least, it's probably going to be over $1 million to finish restoring it. So I've contacted the Kessler group that restores inns. Anytime anyone has asked me for, what about this? I contact them, or I send packets of, information to try and get anything I can to try and get help with the restoration of it. In the meantime, I've maintained the 501c3. I've made sure I've reported, and whenever ECHO's needed to come see it, I've shown it to them, not that anything has changed. Then, I'm sorry, what's your thing called? The Land Opportunity Fund approached me. I know these guys. They saw an opportunity to try to get it restored and to work with me to get it restored, but we realized, it does need to have public space. As far as to be able to restore it in the manner that it was originally intended, where it would be classrooms and meeting space that is for rent downstairs. I just don't know how to move forward on that without any government funding or any, the city, again, is not involved. It's just us. It's just me, really. So they saw a way to put their own money into it, to restore the house and use part of it for public space, and to be able to put a museum type display and have some of it be public space, but the rest of it would be private. That way, obviously they can't just restore the building and then hand it over, for public use. They have to be able to make money back from it. So
is it for private use as a residence or as a B&B?
No.
I thought it was.
Yeah, as a B&B on the second and third floor, and then it would be more public space. There would be public space on the first floor, and probably that's where the museum type area would be. Anything to do with that part of it, they would be better to answer your questions. But I'm happy to answer.
Was the plan to,
Reggie?
was the plan to pay back ECHO the $234,000?
Well, that's part of, obviously, every extra penny they spend, on the building, including if they had to pay back, it makes it even less feasible to try to restore it. So the hope was that, because I know that there are other instances where the entire building isn't for ECHO and only part of it is public space. So the hope was that we could make the public space so that it satisfied you guys, so that you're okay with what we do there, the museum aspect of it, the fact that people could come in and look at it, whenever it's opened, obviously, or whenever you guys feel would be appropriate.
I have a question and a comment. Excuse me, is Is the structure stable today?
Yes,
Okay.
I mean, I've gone in it, so yes. And the roof is done, the roof's actually beautiful, it's a tile roof. The roof is done, all the siding on the outside is done, and the windows are done. Unfortunately, we have had some vandalism, which again, I try to keep control of, but.
I got you. I'm puzzled by the letter in that it's a change in scope, which, to me, this project is old, and it's not really a change in scope in my mind. To me, and I appreciate all the things you're saying, and relative to fitting within the ECHO parameters, I mean, we need public access. You're trying to accommodate that in a certain way. It's a public-private sort of venture. To me, this whole thing should be presented as a new project straight up. I don't see this as a change of scope in any way. I think you should come to us and say, okay, we want to make an application for a grant that has this interest in it, and there's public access to this area. It should be within the parameters of the timetable. The timetable we have here has an exception timetable, which I think it should be within the timetable that we have set as a parameter, and this should be looked at like any other application, because I think there's merit to it, but because it's been so long and there's been money put into it, and
I think
you
the
know,
ECHO money is already spent, correct?
agreed, but spent or not, that doesn't mean there's a change in
No, I'm just
scope.
saying, I think that's why it's here as a change of scope and rather than a new application, because we're not going to gift them any more funds.
I see.
So,
Well, then,
I think that's what it is.
Then the question's really a change of scope, meaning, you know, it's so far
Yeah,
from where
I
a
agree
change
with
of
you on
scope
that,
would
yeah.
be to, you know,
We forgive the money.
it's really a forgive
Yeah,
the
that-
money,
that's
or do
exactly.
we obligate it? I would rather see it brought as a new application with the possibility there's something that can be done with it. But I see what you mean. It's long gone as to scope, and so I'm not sure. I'm confused by, I guess, the time that's passed and all the changes that have taken place. And so I guess I see it as hopeless relative to getting the money back, unless it makes sense from private investment standpoint. But then when we start talking about an area of public access, okay.
Well, we don't even have those details.
Right, and so that would have to be a new application in my mind.
So, Sarah Lee, did I see you wanting to say something? Yes or no?
I think this is a really great example of the challenges associated with historic
Yeah.
restorations and preservation. And obviously, I appreciate everything I just heard because it helped me get a little bit closer to understanding this. Because 06 is so long ago that I'm kind of where Jack was. I was assuming this was accepted and closed out as a project. So a change in scope, I just am,
It's been a heartburn for a lot of people in Delaney.
well,
For a long
apparently, but,
Well,
But-
apparently
but-
not a lot of people, because I'm kind of by myself.
well, and
So,
I'm sitting here and listening, you know, there's
But-
2 people on this board.
Yeah.
You know, this again is a great example of the challenges associated with maintaining a historic property. And, you know, this is from '06. They fell into the recession, all right, which changed a lot of things for many of us. So for this to be an exception to that, you know, that's a big piece of the problems they ran into. As a newer member, I'm not sure what to do on this, but I would agree with many of the comments, my colleague.
Well, let me go down the line. David, do you have anything you want to add?
I agree with what you're talking about, a new scope probably, but we have to look back as well. It's just, there's so many challenges, even as, like you said, a new member, of putting this all together with private and public and this floor and that floor, and, you know, falling into our criteria is, you know, that would have to be really detailed out of
We
how.
could definitely have public space on the second floor too. I mean, I mean, there's the hallway is as wide as a room, so it's easy enough for me to put.
But I think what you're hearing is that we don't have that detail in front of us. We don't, I mean, saying that we
Right.
could do that and actually looking at a plan are two different things. And that's a problem for what I'm hearing from members.
Unfortunately, everything seems to be a loop. We can't move forward with them until we move forward with you, but you can't move forward with me until they move forward. Oops. Keep hitting
David, do you
that.
have anything else?
No, it's just, like
Okay.
you said, I need to see that.
Yeah.
I need to see what they're
And
thinking, because
Reggie,
it's.
you have anything else to add?
First
Okay.
off, I've been in the building, Danny's toured me, and they did preserve the envelope, which was the best thing to do. Thank you for staying with this project, or this house, because it would be a shame if it just deteriorated and it was gone. And I know how things are, people just lost interest, and then the recession hit. Parking. Will there be enough parking for a B&B?
Oh, yeah, the backyard is big. Everyone thinks it's just the fenced-in area, but that's just a close fenced-in area around we have a site plan, I mean, but all of this also was done, before.
Jay did it, right?
Yeah. And the site plan shows, I don't think parking is a problem at all.
Okay.
Yeah. There would be room for parking on either side of the building as well as in the back, and if need be, we could put it on, I mean, obviously we wouldn't want it in the front, but yeah, I think there's plenty of parking. It's a big backyard, it just doesn't look like it because of the way the fence is, but the property goes all the way back to where the fire department is.
And would they keep that outbuilding?
That's
the plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who owns the land? Who owns the land it's on?
Dutton House Inc. does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which consists of 2 people on the board currently.
Yes.
I just want to introduce myself and maybe help add a little bit to the conversation. My name is Solomon Green. I'm local. I know quite a few of y'all. But Danny, we've been friends for probably 20 years, and I was at the initial fundraisers back in the early 2000s for this project. And, to speak to a couple of the gentleman's comments, this is not something that I'm relishing taking on. And, I think Reggie's in real estate as well, and she's seen it, and she knows what it takes, to restore these types of things. And, we've spent, without any agreement in place, without any authorization from ECHO, we've expended probably $30,000 of our own funds just to help her with keeping the yard mowed, keeping the fence secure to prevent vandalism, updating Mr. Pendergast's plans from 2006 to meet the new building code with engineers. And, we've got a group of guys, we all are into land, we all have experience in restoring historic properties. And, when Danny came to us, before COVID, probably three years ago, she's like, please, what do you guys think? What can we do here? And so, I looked at it from someone that has real estate experience, and I said, it's never going to be financially feasible as a complete 100% public space, with the elevators. And so we said, look, it's not going to be a moneymaker, but if we can at least make it break even and achieve the goal of saving the building, that's kind of would be what everybody wants. So we looked at it and said, what makes the most sense? It would be a beautiful Airbnb, bed and breakfast, and would still allow for the public spaces on the first floor, preserving the history of the building, having displays, having it open at certain hours for the public to come and check those out. So, I wasn't prepared to come here with a full-on, presentation. It was kind of like, put it in writing what you guys are thinking, submit it, and then you all would at least know what we're talking about and, possibly what could be a viable solution. But, if you say, absolutely, this sounds terrible, we don't want to do it, I'm not going to go home crying, because we're talking a couple of years of serious work and a lot of money, but.
Let me go back down, start down
Sure.
here. Jeff, do you have some questions? Then I'll go to Mr. Patterson.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I would like to see a full
Sure.
presentation on this. I agree, this is a house that is worthy of preserving. I'm not sure I agree with you, though, when you say it can never be, it would never pay for itself. Because I've been involved in a lot of restorations, and even on 15A, you've got the Stetson House.
Sure.
And that is private, and they make a lot of money, and they have more tours come through that house than any other, historic restoration in this entire area. So I believe the right plan has to be in place. But, in this agreement, it also, there's a comment about, only 15 years from the scope change. Echo is 20 years or 30 years. So if we eventually do make a change and you're using Echo funds, then that year commitment should be, lived up to.
And I understand that totally, but I would remind the board that, this agreement from 2006, if I'm not mistaken, was a stabilization funds to complete the exterior, and I think that was the original agreement in 2006, and it was $240,000, I believe, 230 something. So that original restrictive covenant from 2006 to just stabilize the exterior expires in 2026, so 4 years from now. So that, that was, I definitely understand what you're saying, but, given the original plan, this would have expired in 4 years from today, regardless. So, we're extending it an additional 11 years beyond where it would have ended already.
Carol, have anything else? Or want me to move to Mr. Patterson, come back to you?
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Patterson, and I'll go to Stacy.
When is our next meeting?
July 14th is our next advisory meeting.
Madam Chair, I move that we postpone this project number 06-04 Dutton House restoration change in scope to the next meeting.
Is there a second on that?
Second.
Second it.
And I'll speak to that. I just think there's a lot of questions that I have popped up even from what I've been reading. And I've been around this one since when I was on the county council years ago, when I was in the Florida House of Representatives, there was a thing going on. And now this, when I was reading it, I had a million questions. And I think some of it I want to talk to the legal department
So
about.
I would ask if that date is a certain date, or if they can pull their stuff
To
together.
the July.
till
It can't be
July.
more
You
than,
don't
on
want-
a
you-
motion to postpone, it can't be more than 90 days.
Well,
so-
I'm just thinking if they had it together and we could do a special meeting in July, May,
July.
June. I know there's timelines involved here, and we all want that project, something positive to happen on that project, because it's been a very difficult project for Echo and for the county. And it sounds like Deland has walked away.
Correct.
I think they walked away a long time ago.
Yeah, so,
Pat?
Stacy, let me go to Ms. Simmons and see if she has anything.
Thank you. I just had a comment. I'd really like.
We have a motion on the
Specific
floor.
but we're allowed to have discussion on the
Just
motion?
comment about the motion. I would really like to see more of a detail of the scope of the public access. That would help tremendously. It's coming
Sure.
in from.
Yeah, and I'd like to say too, absolutely, we'll be happy to come back in a
Okay,
later
well then,
time, but I'd also like to say, if anyone here, including the gentleman that made comments earlier, has a viable buyer other than us that's willing to help Danny, this is really something that, is kind of a personal.
I think we don't have enough information.
Okay, no, I'm just saying, but
So,
if anyone
yeah.
here would like to
Yeah.
bring forward another party, then I think that we'd be happy to step aside and let someone else
Or
take.
partner,
What's that?
or partner.
Or a partner, yeah, absolutely.
Somebody.
Okay, well then we'd love to talk to you, yeah, absolutely.
Mr. Attorney, do you have anything that you need to add on this?
Sure, I can always talk.
Well, I know you're an attorney.
Yes, ma'am, that's right. I mean, you know, I think what staff and we're trying to do is craft a way that the public's dollars are used, and the access that was supposed to be granted in 2006, I think was the original grant, is actually a condition that's met. And so while I know you mentioned 4 years, but, you know, we could move to foreclose on our restrictive covenant and take the money back. So, you know, we're trying to work with people. So coming up with the 15 years or even 20, you could even condition it as, I think Mr. Alt and Mr. Pass are alluding to, that at the end of the rehabilitation cycle, when it's actually open, that would be the 20 years or the 15 years would start for the public. So there's a lot of ways that we can work together as partners to make sure the public gets the best bang for their buck for the taxpayers' dollars. And I think that's what staff's trying to do and give you a project and what because it's not entirely unprecedented that some of these have some similar situations that ECHO money's been used.
So if we postpone, vote to postpone, then we would ask staff and the legal department to do greater detail on the plan coming back to us. Would that be appropriate?
Yes, ma'am, on the plan from them, and then we can start
Right.
to draft an agreement
All right.
of how to extend it.
Okay, there's a motion to postpone that's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any additional comment on the motion? If not, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I just want to mention that
Aye.
we are meeting for the grant review panel on June 16th. We can add it to that meeting if you prefer to do it a little sooner.
What is the maker of the motion's desire? She can do it in June. But that's when we're meeting
For the grant review
for the
panel.
grant review. That sounds like that would be,
Offer an amendment to change it to the June
June 16th.
16th date.
okay, so I have to get the original
No,
seconder?
you gotta get a second on the amendment.
Right. Okay. Is there
I
a
second it.
You second, okay.
And then
We have to vote on the
I'm
second.
sure there's no objection to the
There's-
motion.
See, this is our parliamentarian. Steen, are there any objections to the motion? Okay, so the motion is approved to amend it. Now back to the main motion.
There we go.
Thank you. Okay, the main motion is to postpone this request until now, it would be the June meeting. Okay, so do we need a roll call vote, or are we pretty much all in? I didn't think so. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, you're good till then.
If you would, just maybe for our benefit, what would we be looking, or what would you be looking for at that June meeting?
Ms. Simmons,
Sorry.
speak to that?
I've never been to that house, so looking at it as a completely new perspective, I'd expect to see visual drafts, some kind of idea of what the spaces would be used for and access.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because obviously we won't be able to get, engineered.
No. I don't think
Okay,
that's what we're
okay.
asking for
But,
engineering
and then
plans.
too, I don't know if there's a precedent, if anyone would like to come tour it,
Okay. I
individually.
think we're
we can-
allowed to do that. So,
Yes, ma'am, individually.
as an individual.
Yeah, so if anyone's interested, please, feel free to reach out and.
Okay.
And I did want to say, the Stetson Mansion, it's really apples and oranges. The Stetson Mansion was a livable house when they took it over and started to restore it. This is, you'll see, and I'll make sure I bring pictures, although I believe there may be pictures on the website. But this is not again, there's no wiring in the house. There's no electric, there's no plumbing. It's an empty shell with holes in the floors and the walls, and the restoration that is involved on the inside of the house is nothing compared to what the Stetson Mansion had to do. So there's a lot more money that's going to have to go into this building than the Stetson Mansion. I did just want to say
Which
that.
leads me to ask then, that plan for the restoration beyond what ECHO has already provided, and which these gentlemen are interested in putting into the private section of it, that also impacts the public section of it. And so how you're going to pay for that will then be, you just opened that door.
Right.
Our plan was to pay for all of it, and then have a private or a management agreement with her where she would continue to manage the public spaces. So we would cover the entire cost of finishing the project.
So you're not looking for any more public money?
No.
No.
Okay. Mr. Alt, did you have one?
Well, yeah, along with the,
And I know
withdrawing,
we've already had a motion to postpone, but this is important, so
yeah,
we're
but
gonna.
along with drawings and everything, yeah, an overall budget and forecast for completion as well.
Anything?
That's all them, so, yeah.
I mean, the budget's gonna be speculative based on the condition of the house. And so I think if you look at the property and have a chance to walk through it, you'll understand
And I
that the
think
scope
that
of work is significant.
Each member ought to, if they can take that opportunity, they should do it, because it's been years since I've
And
been.
the inside hasn't changed, so I don't want everyone to think that this
But
has
there's new
happened over the
members
last,
here.
yeah.
There's new members
Yeah,
that
yeah,
need to.
so it's in the same condition. If nothing, it's actually a little tidier, because at one point, we kind of tidied stuff up. There was a bunch of stuff all over the place, but.
I'm just gonna go down this side real quick. Is there anything that you want to say, and then we're gonna let these people go?
One thing, could we add it to our May tour?
The May tour. We can look into that. That tour is for the new applicants, but we can check into that.
That might be a good
Yes.
idea, if we can do
Thanks.
that, yeah. Do a tour as part of our May, so, okay, all right.
I have one more thing.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Ms.
I've
Santilli.
talked to Carmen about this in the past couple of years, and she told me that the amount that's owed back to Echo, if it's not public use, decreases. So she told me it's like 207 now.
Yeah, so there's a calculation in the restrictive covenants, depending on how many years, how old the grant is.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
I can't, tell you exactly what they'd have to pay back at this time, but I can figure that out and get back to you.
That'd be good, okay, thank you, good luck.
The only thing I would add to that, Ms. Northey, is that it's also somewhat an assumption based on the conditions been fulfilled. So the public access was granted over time, and then you decided to turn it into something else. I would argue that's a condition
Okay.
that was necessary to get a reduction if you're looking to pay it back so that you can then convert it all to private, as opposed to it never fulfilled that condition in the first place. So that's just something for the board to consider as you move through this process,
Okay.
but it's a good question.
I should also clarify, because I don't remember who said it, but the 2006 grant from ECHO was never intended to finish the building. It was only intended to complete the outside. So it wasn't that, we didn't do what we were supposed to, and then the building never opened. It was, we did, and we still didn't completely, in fact, we were awarded a 2007 grant that we ended up not accepting because we weren't able to finish. Right.
If you could also get a copy of the 2006 grant out to all the members so that they can see what actually was there.
So just so I'm clear on everything you need, you mostly want from them the plans and the budget. Is what additional information do you need from me? That's it. Really just about the public access. Okay, what that's going to look like, and where it'll be within the house. Okay.
Yeah.
One of the things I hope to do too is the Historical Society. I'm hoping to work with them and include tours with Dutton House, but again, nothing seems to be able to move forward until we resolve with you guys, so.
Well, there's new members on here, and I think you heard Mr. Surratt actually propose that you come back with a full application. I don't think that's what we're asking for, but please, the problems that this has had in the community, and it really has been one of the items that people hold up and say, this is why I didn't vote for ECHO, or this is a problem with ECHO. And we want to try to make it right so that everybody's happy with it.
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
So the taxpayers are made whole.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so the next item we have is a scope change request from the City of Port Orange for the train depot. This was a 2015 ECHO grant, and we awarded them $78,125. They are requesting to keep the train depot in its original location. Originally, they were going to move the train depot, and they are proposing to make it accessible to the public with some ADA parking spots and restrooms. So they're here if you have any questions for them.
Okay. Okay. Any questions for the applicant that is here in the room? Okay. Is there a motion on this, Ms. Morrissey?
Can I just confirm to make sure I understood this? So the scope change is that when they applied for this, they were going to relocate the train depot, but now they found out if they relocate it, it is no longer considered historic by the National Registry, so they want to
That's my
keep it put.
understanding. Correct.
That's the scope change. Is that, I just want to make sure I get it.
So.
Okay.
Okay, so this was an acquisition grant, and you have so long to have it open to the public, which the photos that were provided shows that it is now open to the public. When the original application was submitted, the idea was, there was no set plan, to either have the Historical Society work out of it or move it over to Riverwalk. And moving it to Riverwalk is no longer feasible. So we're asking to keep the historic designation, and we're working with the Railroad Society and the Historical Society and going to the commission to see what can be done and what funding can be allocated to restore and renovate it. But we don't have a plan for that or funds for that yet. But it is, according to staff, it's in compliance with where we have it right now with the boards and the signage and.
Okay, any,
Yeah, I move that we approve the change in scope as
Okay.
requested of Echo Grant 19-09.
there's a motion.
Second.
Second.
It's 1509.
Oh,
15.
1509, sorry.
Put your glasses on.
I need bigger ones.
Okay, there's been a motion that's been made and properly seconded. Is there discussion on the motion? I don't see any, so we'll take I think a voice vote on this one. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much.
So the next item we have is also a request from the City of Port Orange for the Rec Center Phase 1. It's a time extension request. We awarded this in 2019, and we awarded $400,000, and they're requesting an extension due to a delay in getting materials.
That seems pretty simple. Is there any questions for the applicant?
I have a question. Can you be more specific as to the materials?
Well, there was a delay initially to get the materials and getting this project started. Now we're 40 to 50% complete. On this phase of the project, as of today, I've requested 75% reimbursement. So we're on track now. But the reason we're not done and needing this extension is because on the front side, there was a delay. We don't anticipate, am I correct, Susan? No more delays? No, well, you know, we can't say for sure, but we're asking for another year extension just to get it complete and get it closed out.
That seems pretty reasonable to me, a year, based on everything we've gone through.
Yeah, I was just wondering what they were. Were they windows? Were they
Okay.
construction materials?
Steel.
Oh, yeah.
Steel.
Oh, steel, okay. All right.
So has money been dispersed then?
From Echo?
Yes.
Yes. So I submitted the second request today, and when you add that, I've requested about 75% of the funds from Phase 1 and close to 50% of the funds on Phase 2.
Okay, and this is a technical question to staff. I'm not seeing any names come here, so I'm going back and forth, and I realize I'm not asking, can Jay participate in discussion?
No, he cannot.
Oh, so he's just listening today. Okay.
I mean, if it's at the pleasure of the board, if you want to allow him to talk, you can allow him to talk, because he's not. We have in the past allowed people to talk, technically, because it's not extraordinary circumstances by which he's participating online. He's not allowed to vote.
Not extraordinary circumstances. Right. Okay.
But if you want to allow him to talk, he can talk.
I'm just going to ask him, Jay, you have anything you want to say? He's probably already gone. Okay.
I think we put him to sleep.
I'm sure. But he's always got lots of good information on particularly historic projects, so I'd like to hear from him. Okay, seeing no more questions, and I think all things have been answered. All those the motion was to grant the extension. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
showing up. Okay, so I guess the next one is New Smyrna Beach.
Yes, so the next project that we have is a project awarded in 2019. It was for $267,500. It's with New Smyrna Beach, and it's for the restoration and stabilization of the Women's Club. They are here to request a time extension due to an agreement with the architect and the value not being able to come to fruition.
Yeah, yes. My name's Todd Alexander. I'm with City of New Smyrna Beach. I've only been with the city for a month, so bear with me.
But we'll make it real
So
hard on you.
Okay. My understanding is the original architect, once they started digging into the project and looking at what needed to be done, discovered a much more significant damage to the foundation of the structure than they originally were aware of. And in negotiations with the city and the architect and trying to develop a cost and a scope for designing a repair for that, the negotiations broke down. So there was a lot of time that was lost with that negotiation. We've since contracted with Bentley Architects to do the work and have also gotten approval from ECHO to change the scope to just focus on the foundation repairs and reconstruction itself. And so that started in November of 2021. When I wrote this letter for the extension, we had received and reviewed 50% plans. We have since gotten to 90% plans for the reconstruction of the foundation and are moving forward with a goal of hopefully completing plans at May 10th and an estimated construction start date based on reviews needed by state and also acquisition of a contractor somewhere in November, with a potential completion of construction of the foundation June, July of 2023. That's my current schedule. There are repairs that need to be done to the remainder of the structure beyond the foundation, and we're waiting for a final award from an additional funds from a state grant for those repairs.
Didn't you get a state grant
This had both an ECHO grant associated with it for the foundation and a state grant.
State grant.
Yes, ma'am. And then there's a separate state grant request for an additional $600,000 to repair the remainder of the structure above the foundation.
But that has not been awarded yet?
I believe it has not been signed by the governor. We're still waiting for that final
Okay, 'cause
award.
I thought y'all got an award from the
We
legislature.
did for the for another portion of money that will be used for the foundation itself.
Okay.
The goal is, if we receive the next state grant for the remainder of the structure above the foundation, would be to do those repairs as quickly as possible and then open to the public after. If those funds do not get awarded and there's a delay in funding, our goal would be to save the building and allow public use in between the next phase of restoration and reconstruction. So, and I will say that I did have a meeting with the historical committee with the city of New Smyrna Beach, and they're passionate about getting this building, done. They really want to look.
The beautiful building.
It is. And so the city's really wanting to finish this project, and just through an unfortunate set of circumstances, we've been delayed over time, so.
Ms. Simmons?
I have a quick question. So the possible grant for the $600,000 to finish off the above ground per se.
Yes, ma'am.
If that didn't come through, you're saying that it's still open to the public, it just wouldn't be renovated? So once the structure foundation was secured with grant
Correct.
monies, then
Correct.
you could still open?
Correct. The foundation, it's on a pier foundation with a brick stem wall around the exterior perimeter of the building. The piers and the perimeter are failing, and so the interior portion of the floor, the building is sagging and flexing. So there was a genuine concern of some kind of failure within the building on that. There's some additional rain damage or water damage in the southwest corner that will also be saved up for in between the two renovation phases. But if we can get the floor and those corners safed up, and we feel we could gain access for the public into the building, it won't be as pretty, but at least it gives access, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Patter, anything? Anything from you, Mr. Patterson? Okay, Mr. Allred? Anybody down that end? Okay, is someone want to make a motion to approve an extension as requested?
Madam Chair, I move, is it the continuation of the
Extension.
continuation of the extension on 19-07, restoration and stabilization of the Women's Club?
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, it's been properly moved and second, and is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, a voice vote, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No nays, so you got your extension.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Okay.
So our next item is project 1904, granted in 2019 with the City of Deltona for Rookery Park. We granted them $75,150, and they are here today to request to rescind the project. We
Okay.
have not paid anything out to them. There's been no reimbursements.
Okay, Mr. Paradise, nice to see you.
Likewise, Madam Chair, committee members. Ron Paradise, City of Deltona Community Services for the record. Last month, the City Commission, City of Deltona officially rescinded or withdrew the Rookery Park request for Echo. I want to be clear for the record, and so everybody here knows this is not a reflection of the Echo program. The city is looking to continue to be a reliable partner in the Echo program. What we determined was some of our planning, design, and engineering was inadequate to really make this project feasible at this juncture. And we also, at the same time, are reevaluating our future Echo efforts moving forward. So it was best to, A, facilitate getting our other Echo projects closed out and completed, and B, figure out exactly what we want to do moving forward. Like I said, we appreciate you all, your all's
We'll hold it against you.
Oh, thank you. We appreciate your all's consideration on this. Maybe one day in the future, this project will be back, but you won't see it anytime soon at this juncture. And again, I want to thank your staff as well for working with us on this project and other projects. I'd be happy to field any questions you all have.
Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. I thought that was a terrific project, and we've gone to the site, and it was real interesting. Can you be more specific on what happened?
Yes. What we did is our engineering and design was inadequate with regard to geotechnical information and the bathymetry data needed for the overlook on Big Lake.
Yeah, okay. So I think I remember this because we had the discussion, and it had water underneath the sidewalk area, and it needed to be stabilized, and you came, I think, with a change in scope that was associated with that?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
It is a great project, and it is something that, like I said, one day in the future, we hope
Hopefully we'll see it
yeah,
again.
yeah.
Right.
We want to bring this forward one day in the future. But, it's really neat. It overlooks Big Lake, and there's an island out there that's a wading bird rookery. Would have been a great resource.
Okay. Any other questions, Stacy?
I just had a comment. I wanted to let you know that I appreciate the fact that you would come through and let us know that it's not going to go through without keeping the monies tied up. So I just really appreciate the good partnership.
Thank you.
All right.
I just wanted to say hello to Mr. Paradise, and I appreciate you coming to the meeting to let us know
Thanks for having me.
the details.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the request to rescind the project? Made by Stacy Simmons, is there a second? Made by Sarah Lee Morrissey, and seeing no additional discussion, not a roll call vote, a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And really, we won't hold it against you all, because
I
I know
really
I know you're
appreciate
worried
that.
about that. I heard that.
Like I said, we are looking to be an active partner in the ECHO program moving forward. And again, I can't thank you all enough.
Okay, thank you, Ron. I'll see you next Wednesday. Yeah, yeah. Okay, we're to advisory committee comments. Are there any comments from the advisory committee? Ms. Simmons? No? Mr. Patterson? Mr. Alt? Okay, Jack?
I have a question concerning the status relative to the needs survey development, because I knew that was somewhat time sensitive and we wanted to get that out. And I was wondering if there's been any progress there.
Good question.
So there was actually not a motion at the last meeting to do a need survey. So we went back and looked at the minutes. So we were at the staff level kind of in limbo in terms of, if you looked at the minutes, there was not broad agreement from the committee on next steps. I believe half the committee wanted a needs assessment to go to the grantees, and the other half of the committee wanted the general public to complete almost like a satisfaction survey. So there was not a motion. So
Russ,
there
do
was
you
not
have
a
something?
motion.
Do you have
So
something for us?
Is there something you want to
Yeah,
say,
sorry, kind
Ron?
of holding back. Okay, I'm sorry.
So if you wanted to make a motion and give staff direction, that would be great.
Okay, so Jack?
Well, let's
talk about
let's
this.
discuss it, because I remember the discussion we had last time, and I was one that was complaining that it was too broad and that it needed to be to the specific nonprofits and organizations that were, that's where the inquiry should be versus what we saw as the preliminary survey, which was much broader.
Yeah. And
to
I would
me-
take the opposite tack, that it needs to be as broad as possible.
Yeah, I think the questions are different. That's
Well, that's
the distinction. It's not that, I'm all for surveying everyone, but you have to be pretty specific when you get into trying to find out what the needs are of the nonprofits and these organizations. Myself, I think it's kind of important to try to draw out that information, and I'm not sure the needs survey is the best way to do it, but it's at least one way to do it or a start to do it. So my position is we should be asking in a needs survey, if we want to call it that, what the nonprofits and the organizations, whatever they may be, have as to interest in the different ECHO projects in the county. And so to me, I'm a proponent of doing it, but not to the public because of the generality of the questions.
So to staff, I think what I'm hearing Jack say is, and I would concur, there are different questions for the audience. What are we putting on you to ask you to develop a needs survey for those that are the not-for-profits? But I think this is we're in the first year of 20 years. And we have a healthy reserve, and I think that we really ought to hear from the public as well, so that those comments can go back to the not-for-profits and the municipal governments and county government, and what they're expecting out of ECHO. I mean, it overwhelmingly was supported, but it would be nice to hear, okay, what do you think we need to be doing? And not that we take that on, but I think it would be. I think there's two survey questionnaires here.
Yeah, and I think Mr. Alt had ideas relative to what other counties have done as well.
Yeah, I'll be honest, after the discussion last time, I was sort of under the assumption we were going to deal with this in July after this next cycle.
Well, that
it wasn't to try and push it off, but
well, that might work.
The same staff is dealing with all the
That's true.
forever stuff,
Yeah.
the forever grants. We were going into a new cycle, adding on an additional layer.
I think that's a good point, Mr. Alt, because applications are coming in now. So maybe we need to get through that process and this become a work item. Would that be okay with you, Jack?
Frankly, no, because I think the sooner we get to it, the better. But from my standpoint, that's fine. I don't mind putting it off. I just think we need to get it, and get it sooner is better than getting it later. And won't they have the next obligations? You know, there's going to be obligations on the group, of the staff, if you will, all the way along. So I just see it as a pretty important need. And that's why I brought it up to start with. But I just as soon delay if that's what we wish.
Mr. Burball, it's your department, so.
And we can certainly handle the workload if you want to do it. But one of the things, if you notice, that one of the components that we wanted to do with our 2 workshops that we're going to do with the environmental groups, and then later in the year, the Historic Preservation Board, when we have a planner that's assigned to the board, is part of that is asking them what their needs are. So if you see the notes, it talks about needs and recommendations. So I'd rather have them come here, those environmental groups, and say, these are what our needs are. But we could certainly do a survey as well.
Well, I'm receptive to that myself, as long as you get as many as you can of those groups. I don't want anybody left out because they're not giving their input, and a needs survey seems to be broader in its distribution than actually bringing them here for presentation in some sort of workshop form. So I hear you, and I think it's important really to talk to the groups internally, like the environmental group, and I think that's real critical, as well as an association with Forever, but. You know, to some extent, you know, I'm just trying to get the input from these groups in order for us to go forward in an efficient fashion. That's all.
So let me ask this. I know it would require council approval, but would it be appropriate to have an outside consultant do this? So that, it would take that burden off of, and I don't want it, burden's not the right word, but it would take that responsibility out of your department. I don't know how you feel about that, or whether a consultant, and I know the council doesn't like to spend money, but if there was, you have something you want to say, Mr. So, I'm trying to find an accommodation for everybody here. I think there's a desire that we have some kind of a needs survey, and it's like 2 parts. I also, I know the workload that's for the grants, and we committed to 2 grant cycles this year, which is the other thing.
So I feel like we've got the blessing for the needs survey for the public last time. We've gotten feedback on it. We'll move forward with that. What we'll plan to do is come forward in June with a draft needs survey for grant recipients for your review and feedback.
Okay.
That'd be great.
Does that work? Does that work
Yes.
for everybody? Okay, go ahead, Stacy.
You had mentioned a planner for the board, talking about the next workshop for historical. Can you elaborate what the plan going forward for this fiscal year, or is the planner a separate position, or?
So yes, so in our growth and resource management department, there is a planner, a position that is assigned to the Historic Preservation Board. So they would be our liaison to coordinate a workshop with that board. That position is currently vacant. So when that position is filled, we will liaise with them. I think it's important that that person understand the needs as well and be on board. So that's why we're pushing the historic workshop to the second. That we're doing environmental first to get someone on board, and then we'll have the workshop that you guys made a motion.
And I think it's really important. That position is really important. I'm not sure that people understand just what role they play in the growth management department. But also, if you think about it, what we saw today on this extensions were mostly historic preservation, and that's its own issue. Is these projects are always more than what we think they're going to be.
Right, and we want priority there, to get as many as we can. So you're right.
Thanks for the clarification.
Mr. Alt, did you have something?
Yeah, Brad, would it help if before one of the last meetings you had information, you had input from, I know myself and Jack, and I think 1 or 2 other people had actually written objectives or missions for the next year, whatever that was called. Would it help if everybody submitted, a question or two for that survey to you through the office?
Certainly. If anyone wants to share their thoughts or questions to include, we'll be open to that.
Okay. Any other comments from members of the committee? Okay. Shirley?
I did, you guys must have been reading my mind and you were wanting to cut me off. Half of the requests today were about historic.
They were.
50% of them. And they all had something in common, that when they came in to get money, they weren't going to be done. And, I saw several common threads through the three that I really think speak to the need to delve deeper into historical and consider
I would absolutely agree with you, because I think we're going to see a couple more coming forward that we're going to have to really think very hard on.
Yeah. So I was really happy to hear that you hadn't forgotten, and yet there was a plan, and it makes sense. So thank you.
Okay. If there's no further business to come before this committee, yes?
Few staff
I'm
comments.
sorry.
Yes,
That's
no problem.
right, I forgot
No,
staff
yes,
comments.
it's okay. So I just wanted the board to be aware that Resource Stewardship has hired an intern for the summer. She will be shared over all of our activities, but for ECHO, we're hoping to use her to compile the data from the annual reports and do an infographic, which is a one-page informational document to put some information out for the citizens. And also, I wanted to remind everybody the final applications for this cycle are due April 28th. We received 7 technical applications with a total of $3.2 million requested. And the tours, which we mentioned earlier, is on May 26th. So we're going to try to work in the Dutton House. So we should have time, since there's only 7, but we should have time to fit that in. And on June 16th is the grant review panel meeting. So I'll send out reminders to everybody, but I just wanted to make sure I gave you all that information today.
Okay.
I'm going to have to, I will be here May 26th. However, in all likelihood, I will not be able to finish the tours. I have a high school graduation in the family, and I have to go to that.
Yeah, you have to go to that.
So it sounds like I'll make at least half of them, if not maybe 5.
So can we ask the ones that are applying for grants to make accommodations if a member can't make it, that they can then go out on their own?
Certainly,
to,
yes.
To see
Yes.
them?
Yep,
Okay.
I'll do that.
Okay, we'll stand in adjournment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Patterson, you want your tickets? I sold 2 more today. I'm so sorry. I did. My girlfriend was in town and she asked about them.
Give me the money.
Money and tickets. Check it and make sure it's all there. I think. Well, I don't know that. I think there's 11.
20, 75. So we got 1, 2,
See you, Jeffrey. Thank you. Thank you.
7 left.
Okay. So 7 times 5 is 35. How many did I have?
Well, you got 2065.
She kept digging a hole too, the more she talked, the bigger her hole got. She just kept digging a hole for herself too. The more she talked, the bigger her hole got. I'm thinking, lady, shut up. Yeah, blonde, pretty blonde.
Yeah, she had a, yeah, her sister.
She's driving me crazy, her name, I can see her.
Yeah, and so she was raising this kid, and she came to me and she complained about, he can't in-state tuition and all this kind of stuff, but he's really on this assistant thing. And I got a special distance base from the community college to give him.
People don't understand that when they need to say, when they need to, they don't understand when someone does them a favor, you need to be responsive to that. You need to be grateful.